Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 25. Another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. As ever, give it a share, give it a like, send it to somebody awesome, and let's crack on. First one is Google's Try-On. Now, a lot of companies have had a go at try-ons over the years, and now generative AI is also having a go with Google. So the way this works is a couple, maybe 4 or 5 sites in the US at the moment that have this try-on ability. So you might find it on an image, and what it uses is generative AI to take the single image and then regenerate it for different body shapes and types. So what it will do is you will see the option, you'll find, you can see a selection of them on the right hand side, one that best represents you, and then it will regenerate it. So you don't have to do anything if you're the actual site owner, you just provide it with one image. Now this is based on the stat that apparently 42% of online shoppers don't feel represented by the images of models. That seems about right. So there you go, quite interesting. There's also some other tools they're coming out with as well that if it does generate something you think, oh, I really like that but it's too expensive, it can then do searches based on similar items. So kind of interesting. Also kind of interesting. So in a very nerdy way, but it kind of has implications for our hardware going forwards. So this is a crypto-mechanical RAM content extraction hack. That might sound funky, right? But so this is based on a cold boot attack. What a cold boot attack does is when a chip starts up, there tend to be some process, or there is some process it goes through, but there can also be some, let's say, some debugging things left into a boot of a chip as it goes in. Now that chip contains usually the code to run what the hardware needs to do. If you're in something like a phone or something, that might actually have some private data in it as well, but also might contain the operating system of the device itself. Now, if you're a manufacturer, or maybe if you're a competitor, that's useful information. So a cold boot attack usually basically cools a chip until the data in there is quite literally frozen. So you can do this to RAM chips, for instance. Now this attack, it actually uses a piece of kit. All of the details are on the internet. $2,000 you can make this. And it allows you to supercool the chips using an aerosol essentially and extract the memory. Now it does it in a really funky way by looking at when the CPU is not processing the RAM and therefore finding its moment to do it, and it can do it to multiple chips at the same time. What I thought was also interesting in this was that you got some manufacturers already wise to this. So some of the games consoles, for instance, are wise to this, and they're starting to encrypt their RAM so that people can't actually extract them using this kind of hack as well. So if this was new to you, then that's quite interesting. If you're in this world, then there's some kit that you can probably get your hands on that will actually allow you to hack into the sort of the boot sequences of chips. There you go. Kids social media law in Texas. So there's a lot of these state-by-state laws. Montana's got a couple going on at the moment. So this is the latest one from Texas. It was actually passed at the end of May, so it's been a couple of weeks now. But this is the HB 18 rule, and it really gives sweeping powers to parents over their child's or their minors' social media accounts, so TikTok, Meta, all of that stuff. So there's some extracts that I've just chosen on the right hand side there. So basically the social medias must list harmful material, enforce blocking, they must actually provide their algorithm as well, they may not allow minors to make purchases, basically sell or do anything with personal identifiable data, also track them precisely, and do stuff about targeted advertising. Also, mainly that the parents get complete access to their privacy settings, must be able to see what's going on as well and be able to shut it down. So nobody's quite sure how this will actually be done and policed, and also nobody's really said what the consequences of this are. But there you go. If it's happened in Texas, it'll happen somewhere else. If it's happened in America, it'll happen somewhere else. So that's quite interesting. The Dingo. So if you know the dinosaurs, you know I love a good sort of robot killer dog story. So so this is out of Australia, and if you're a researcher, then it's a bit tough to get like a decent size one of these robo dogs. You can buy sort of toy versions of them, but they're not particularly robust. If they break, you can't really do anything with them. And there's a few open source ones, but they tend to be quite small. So this is the first kind of decent size one that you can probably attach kit to. It's got all the good stuff. It's got LiDARs, it can walk, it can be remote controlled, all those things. You can build this yourself, 3D print it, you can extend it, do whatever you need to do. But if you wanted a relatively cheap, and I'm thinking, I think it's 1,300 Australian dollars, about £700, this might be for you. All the stuff's on GitHub and that sort of thing. go and look it up. AI model collapse. Now, this has been rumbling along, but I quite like the fact that this has got a name now. So what happens in the future when, of course, if you don't really know how generative AI works, then you feed it data, generally data we've currently got in the world, which is probably generated by humans in some sense, then great, it learns how to converse, how, what things are. Now, if it starts to generate things from that, and then accidentally, or maybe purposefully, you feed that back into the model and it starts learning from its own outputs, you'll end up with more and more cranky, weird, and essentially poisonous, as they call it. You can poison these systems with its own data. So that there is called AI model collapse. So how do you stop this from happening? Well, you try and keep the provenance of the data. So if there's some original human data, then that provenance is high. And the more it gets generated, then actually the less useful it should be. So again, how that's going to work, nobody really knows. It would need all of the AI generative systems out there to somehow embed into the data some sort of provenance code or value and something like that. So don't know, but I really like the fact that this sort of model collapse is becoming more widely spoken about. Toroidal propellers. Now, I've been avoiding doing anything about these for a while because it's sort of they've just been popping up all over the place. I love engineering stuff, so motors and whatnot. So I've been seeing these everywhere. So I'm going to do it now because I've seen it too many times. So toroidal propellers are these sort of donut-shaped propellers. Now, what is the benefit over a normal propeller? Well, the fact that it's essentially the tips of the propellers make the noise. It creates vortexes. Oh, here's a great diagram here. So there are more vortexes on the left one than on the right. So those vortexes create sound, and therefore these toroidal propellers can be twice as quiet, i.e. if there's a drone twice as far away, then actually that's the sort of the sound you'll get from the current toroidal propellers, if that makes any sense. Now, it has a couple of other benefits. It can also be far more efficient. Also, they're safer. If you do get clunked on the head by one of these things as you're walking past it, it's going to be a bit safer. Now, they are also heavier as well, so they might not be so great for long-distance flight. But for drone flight, quieter, and probably more efficient in the short run as well. So these have been around since 1969, but the patent ran out, and MIT have really sort of taken up the mantle and have been doing some really good work with them. So I really like where that's going. And finally, in scissor innovation news, now you've all been waiting for this one for years. I just love these unboxing scissors. I loved every part of this. So it's a pair of scissors, and what you do is you then slide them at some point, and then the tip of the scissors then becomes a blade. You can do all that good stuff. They are silicone coated, so the tape doesn't stick to them as well. So they're excellent. I just really like that. It's a really good idea. And you can also sort of separate them, as you saw there, and they can just turn into a knife in their own right. So clearly there's some tomfoolery going on in some of these shots here, but I really like that. Currently only available, I think, in Singapore or thereabouts, but hopefully these will be coming to a shop near you. Love those. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. I've been asked to put a QR code at the end of these, so that's what I've now done. For whatever reason, if you want that on your phone, scan that now and you can go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. So hopefully it was useful. I will see you next week.